She divorced billionaire CEO to protect triplets he thought were dead, until one of them needed his rare blood type. Maxwell, our children didn't die in the accident. The words hung in the air between them, incomprehensible at first, then slowly taking shape into something that couldn't possibly be true. What are you saying? His voice emerged as barely more than a whisper. The triplets survived. They're alive. Her eyes never left his, steady despite the tremor in her voice. I've been hiding them for the past 8 months. Maxwell felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. Rage, confusion, disbelief, and a terrible, fragile hope collided within him. That's not possible. The doctors confirmed. The doctors confirmed what I needed everyone to believe. Olivia took a step forward. I discovered something dangerous, Maxwell. Something that put our family at risk. I had to protect them even from you. Especially from you because you were being watched. Have you ever wondered what it would take for a mother to fake her children's deaths and hide them from their own father? What kind of danger would force a woman to let the man she once loved believe he had lost everything, while she carried the burden of an unimaginable secret alone? If you've ever had to make an impossible choice to protect someone you love, this story will resonate deep in your soul. Give this video a like if you believe that sometimes the most painful decisions are made out of the deepest love. I'm Mr. Harrison, and today I'm sharing the remarkable story of how a desperate mother's deception, a grieving father's rage, and a child's life-threatening illness converged to expose a dangerous conspiracy and test the limits of forgiveness. The rain pounded against the windows of Vivian Parker's law office, casting gloomy shadows across the mahogany desk where Olivia Reeves sat. Divorce papers spread before her like a surrender flag. 3 years of marriage to Maxwell Donovan, founder and CEO of Horizon Innovations, had come to this. A signature that would sever their legal bond, but couldn't begin to untangle the web of secrets between them. Are you absolutely certain about this, Olivia? Vivian asked, her voice gentle but direct. Once filed, there's no going back. Olivia's hand trembled slightly as she gripped the pen. The weight of her decision pressed down on her shoulders like a physical burden. 3 lives depended on her choice. 3 tiny heartbeats that Maxwell believed had stopped 8 months ago. I'm certain, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The pen scratched across paper, finalizing the end of a marriage that had once seemed destined for fairy tale status. Outside the office, her security detail waited, a necessary precaution when divorcing one of the most powerful men in the technology world. Maxwell hadn't contested the divorce, hadn't fought for reconciliation. The loss of their unborn triplets had hollowed him, transforming the brilliant, passionate man she'd fallen in love with into a cold, distant stranger consumed by work and grief. What he didn't know, what she had sacrificed everything to hide, was that their children hadn't died in that car accident 8 months ago. The triplets were alive, hidden away where Maxwell's influence couldn't reach them, where his enemies couldn't find them, where the truth that had driven Olivia to this desperate measure remained safely buried. Until today, as Olivia stepped into the rain, her phone vibrated in her pocket. The number belonged to Dr. Eleanor Wright, the only physician who knew the truth. It's Lily, Eleanor said without preamble, her voice tight with urgency. She's developed complications. We need to do a transfusion immediately. Olivia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. What's wrong? Is she? She's stable for now, but her condition is deteriorating. Olivia, we've exhausted our supply of compatible blood. We need more and we need it soon. I'll donate again. I can be therein. Your blood type isn't compatible with hers. You know that. Eleanor's voice softened with the weight of what she was about to say. Lily has her father's rare blood type, AB negative with the Kell antigen. We need Maxwell. The words struck Olivia like physical blows. 8 months of careful planning, of elaborate deception, of heartbreaking separation from her children, all to protect them from dangers Maxwell didn't even know existed. And now, to save one child, she would have to risk exposing all 3. There has to be another way, Olivia whispered, though she already knew there wasn't. I've exhausted every option, Eleanor confirmed. Without his blood, I can't guarantee Lily will survive the week. Rain soaked through Olivia's coat as she stood frozen on the sidewalk, the divorce papers in her bag suddenly meaningless in the face of this new crisis. The choice before her was impossible. Maintain the lie and potentially lose her daughter, or reveal the truth and risk losing all 3 children to the danger that had forced her into this deception. "I'll call you back," she said finally, ending the call before Eleanor could respond. Her security detail approached, concern evident in their expressions. "Ms. Reeves, is everything all right?" Olivia straightened her shoulders, decision made. "Change of plans. Take me to Horizon Tower. If you're shocked by a mother who would go to such extreme lengths to protect her children, hit that like button. And if you believe that sometimes the most difficult choices come from the deepest love, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that explore the extraordinary lengths people will go to for those they cherish." 5 years earlier, Olivia Bennett had been the rising star of the cybersecurity world, a brilliant analyst with an uncanny ability to spot patterns others missed. At 32, she had already consulted for 3 Fortune 500 companies and the Department of Defense, earning a reputation for both technical brilliance and uncompromising integrity. Maxwell Donovan had been 37, already a legend in the tech industry. Horizon Innovations, the company he had built from his Harvard dorm room, was revolutionizing military communications technology with encryption systems so advanced that governments worldwide were clamoring for exclusive contracts. They met at a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco, where Olivia was presenting research on vulnerabilities in quantum encryption protocols, vulnerabilities that directly impacted Horizon's flagship product. "Ms. Bennett," Maxwell had approached her after her presentation, his expression a careful mask of professional interest that didn't quite hide his irritation. "Your findings are concerning." Olivia had met his gaze without flinching. "They're accurate, Mr. Donovan. Your system has a backdoor. Whether it was intentional or accidental isn't my concern. I'd like to discuss this privately," he'd replied, handing her his card with a handwritten note on the back. "Dinner. Tonight. The Meridian, 8 p.m. She'd almost declined, suspecting he would try to pressure her into retracting her findings. Instead, she'd found herself sitting across from him at the city's most exclusive restaurant, engaged in the most stimulating technical conversation of her career. "You're right about the vulnerability," Maxwell had admitted after their appetizers arrived. "But you missed something crucial in your analysis." "I don't think so," Olivia had countered, confident in her work. Maxwell had smiled then, a genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "The backdoor isn't a flaw. It's a trap. Anyone who tries to exploit it triggers a silent alarm and leaves a digital signature we can trace." That dinner had lasted until midnight, their conversation flowing from encryption protocols to philosophy, from childhood dreams to future ambitions. By dessert, Olivia had recognized the dangerous attraction building between them. Dangerous because Maxwell Donovan wasn't just brilliant and handsome, but because he matched her intellect in a way no one ever had before. 3 months later, after a whirlwind courtship conducted across time zones and continents, Maxwell had proposed on the balcony of his Manhattan penthouse. 6 months after that, they were married in an intimate ceremony at his family's estate in Connecticut. "I want you to come work with me at Horizon," Maxwell had said on their honeymoon in Bali. "Head of cybersecurity. Full autonomy, your own team, whatever resources you need." Olivia had hesitated. "Working with your spouse is complicated, Maxwell. What happens when we disagree?" "Then we disagree," he'd replied, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder as they lay in their private villa. "Your mind is one of the reasons I fell in love with you, Olivia. I'd never ask you to compromise it." For 2 years, their partnership, personal and professional, had seemed perfect. Horizon Innovations expanded into new markets. Their security protocols became the gold standard in the industry, and their marriage thrived on mutual respect and shared passion. Then came the day Olivia discovered she was pregnant. Not with 1 child, but 3. "Triplets," Maxwell had repeated, stunned, when she showed him the ultrasound. "3 babies at once? Are you disappointed?" Olivia had asked, suddenly uncertain. They had discussed children, but vaguely as a future possibility. Maxwell's expression had transformed. wonder replacing shock. Disappointed? Olivia, this is extraordinary. 3 new lives we created together. He had placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach, his voice dropping to a whisper. Our family. The pregnancy had been difficult from the start. Multiple gestation pregnancies always carried higher risks, and Olivia's age and slight frame added complications. By the 4th month, her doctor had ordered bed rest. I can work remotely, Olivia had insisted when Maxwell suggested she take a leave of absence from Horizon. The security audit for the Pentagon contract is too important. Nothing is more important than you and our children, Maxwell had countered, his tone brooking no argument. Horizon will survive without you for a few months. Reluctantly, Olivia had agreed, setting up a home office in their bedroom where she could work limited hours while following her doctor's orders. It was during this period of restricted activity, with time to observe patterns she might have missed in her usual hectic schedule, that she first noticed anomalies in Horizon's secure servers. Small discrepancies in access logs, minute changes to shipping manifests for specialized components, encrypted communications using Horizon's own protocols but outside official channels. At first, she dismissed her concerns as pregnancy-induced paranoia, but as the evidence accumulated, a disturbing pattern emerged. Someone within Horizon was diverting small quantities of their most advanced technology with military applications, to unauthorized recipients. I need to tell Maxwell, she had decided, after confirming her suspicions through careful backtracing of the digital breadcrumbs. But that same evening, as she prepared to share her discovery, she overheard Maxwell on the phone in his home office, the door slightly ajar. The Pentagon audit starts Monday, he was saying, his voice tense. Everything needs to be perfect. We can't afford even a hint of impropriety. Not with the Chinese contract in final negotiations. A pause. Then, I don't care how you handle it, just make sure it's clean. Horizon's reputation is everything. If there's a problem, fix it before it reaches my desk. Another pause. No, Olivia doesn't need to know. She's focused on the pregnancy, which is exactly where her attention should be right now. Olivia had frozen outside the door, her hand halfway raised to knock. The conversation, without context, could have been innocent, standard corporate caution before a major government audit. But combined with her discoveries, she had retreated silently, her mind racing. Was Maxwell involved in the technology diversion? Was he being set up? Or was he simply practicing typical corporate compartmentalization, keeping potential problems contained until they could be resolved? That night, unable to sleep, Olivia had made a decision. She would continue her investigation privately, gathering irrefutable evidence before approaching Maxwell. If he was innocent, she would help him identify the threat within his company. If he was involved, she couldn't bear to complete that thought. For 3 weeks, she had worked in secret, using her administrative access to follow the digital trail deeper into Horizon systems. What she found had chilled her to the bone. Someone had created an elaborate shadow operation within Horizon, diverting cutting-edge military technology to a shell company that intelligence databases identified as a front for Anton Resnick, a notorious arms dealer with ties to terrorist organizations worldwide. More disturbing still, the digital fingerprints had been carefully crafted to implicate Maxwell himself if the operation was ever discovered. Email correspondence, apparently from Maxwell's account, authorized the diversions. Financial records showed payments to offshore accounts linked to his personal holdings. It was an elaborate frame job, designed to destroy both Maxwell and Horizon if exposed. But who had the access, knowledge, and motivation to execute such a scheme? The answer had come 3 days later, when Olivia accessed a hidden server node and found encrypted communications between Horizon's chief operating officer, James Whitfield, Maxwell's oldest friend and right-hand man, and Resnick's organization. I have everything I need, she had whispered to herself, downloading the evidence to a secure drive. Tomorrow I'll show Maxwell. But tomorrow never came. That night, as Olivia drove home from a doctor's appointment, a black SUV had forced her car off the road and down a steep embankment. The last thing she remembered before losing consciousness was the realization that this was no accident. It was a warning. She had awakened in the hospital to the sound of Maxwell's voice, raw with emotion as he spoke to someone in the hallway. "How do I tell her when she wakes up?" he was saying, his voice breaking. "How do I tell my wife our children are gone?" In that moment, lying in the hospital bed with monitors beeping around her, Olivia had made the most difficult decision of her life. A decision born of fear, love, and desperate calculation. If Whitfield had discovered her investigation and arranged the accident as a warning, then he wouldn't hesitate to strike again, next time perhaps with fatal consequences. And if the triplets had survived, as the fluttering sensation in her abdomen suggested, they would be in constant danger as long as Whitfield believed she might expose him. Unless everyone, including Maxwell, believed the babies had died in the crash. It had taken one phone call to Dr. Eleanor Wright, her college roommate and now a specialist in high-risk pregnancies at a private medical center outside the city. One desperate plea for help that would set in motion a deception of unimaginable proportions. "Eleanor," she had whispered into the phone while a nurse checked her vitals. "I need your help. My life depends on it. My babies' lives depend on it." Within hours, medical records had been altered, a false narrative established. The trauma of the crash had resulted in placental abruption. Emergency surgery had been performed. Despite heroic efforts, the triplets had not survived. Grief counselors were standing by, and Maxwell, devastated by the loss, had never questioned the medical details. Why would he? What husband would imagine his wife capable of such a deception? What father would suspect his children were alive when presented with death certificates and the crushing weight of hospital condolences? Only Olivia, Eleanor, and two trusted nurses knew the truth. The triplets had been safely delivered by emergency C-section and secretly transferred to Eleanor's private clinic outside the city, where they would remain hidden until Olivia could expose Whitfield's treachery and eliminate the threat to her family. But the investigation had proven more dangerous and complex than anticipated. Every lead had exposed more layers of deception, more powerful players involved. And Maxwell, consumed by grief and work, had drifted further away, making it impossible for Olivia to confide in him without concrete proof that wouldn't put him in danger. For 8 agonizing months, she had lived a double life, grieving widow in public, secret mother in private, making weekly trips to visit her children under the guise of healing retreats. Watching Maxwell retreat into himself, his grief hardening into a shell that eventually led him to suggest they end their marriage. And all the while, searching for the final pieces of evidence that would expose Whitfield without endangering Maxwell or their children. Now, standing in the rain with divorce papers in her bag and her daughter's life hanging in the balance, Olivia faced the moment she had both dreaded and longed for, the moment when the truth would finally emerge. If you've ever had to choose between a painful truth and a comforting lie, hit that like button. And if you believe that sometimes the most difficult decisions are made out of the deepest love, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that will touch your heart and perhaps change how you see the world around you. Maxwell Donovan stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching rain lash against the glass. The city sprawled below, an empire of technology and innovation he had built from nothing. At 42, he controlled a company valued at billions, employed thousands, and shaped the future of multiple industries. And none of it filled the hollow space where his heart had once been. 8 months since the accident. 8 months since he'd lost 3 children he would never know. 8 months watching his marriage crumble under the weight of grief and unspoken resentments. Today, that marriage had officially ended. The notification had arrived via email from his attorney moments ago. Olivia had signed the papers. It was done. Maxwell should have felt something, relief, perhaps, or finality. Instead, there was only the same emptiness that had become his constant companion. His intercom buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Donovan." His assistant's voice carried a note of surprise. "Olivia, Ms. Reeves is here. She's insisting on seeing you immediately." Maxwell turned from the window, genuinely startled. They had agreed to handle everything through attorneys, to spare themselves the pain of further direct contact. What could possibly bring her here today of all days? "Send her in," he said after a moment's hesitation. When the door opened, the sight of Olivia nearly stole his breath. Soaked from the rain, her dark hair clinging to her face, she looked simultaneously vulnerable and fiercely determined. Something in her expression sent a jolt of alarm through him. "Olivia? What's happened?" She closed the door behind her, then stood facing him with the width of his vast office between them. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen completely before you respond." The intensity in her voice raised every warning flag in Maxwell's mind. He gestured to the sitting area. "Please sit. I prefer to stand." She drew a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "Maxwell, our children didn't die in the accident." The words hung in the air between them, incomprehensible at first, then slowly taking shape into something that couldn't possibly be true. "What are you saying?" His voice emerged as barely more than a whisper. "The triplets survived. They're alive." Her eyes never left his, steady despite the tremor in her voice. "I've been hiding them for the past 8 months. Maxwell felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. Rage, confusion, disbelief, and a terrible, fragile hope collided within him. "That's not possible." The doctors confirmed. The doctors confirmed what I needed everyone to believe. Olivia took a step forward. "I discovered something dangerous, Maxwell. Something that put our family at risk. I had to protect them even from you. Especially from you because you were being watched." "This is insane." Maxwell's mind raced, trying to process what she was saying. "You're telling me you faked the death of our children? That you've been hiding them from me? Their father?" "Yes." The simple admission carried the weight of months of deception. "And now one of them needs you. Lily has your blood type and she's sick. She needs a transfusion from you specifically." Maxwell braced himself against his desk, the room suddenly spinning around him. "Lily," he repeated, the name of a daughter he hadn't known existed until this moment. "You named her Lily." "Lily, Ethan, and Mia," Olivia confirmed softly. "They're 8 months old now. 8 months." The magnitude of what he had missed crashed over him. 8 months of their lives. Their first smiles, first laughs. His voice broke, emotion overwhelming him before hardening into cold fury. "How could you do this? What possible justification?" "Someone at Horizon is selling classified technology to Anton Resnick." The name stopped Maxwell cold. Anton Resnick, a notorious arms dealer with connections to terrorist organizations worldwide. The kind of man governments had been trying to capture for decades. "What does Resnick have to do with our children?" "Everything." Olivia moved closer, her voice dropping. "I found evidence on your private server. Evidence that someone was setting you up to take the fall for the sales. The night I discovered it, I overheard a phone conversation making it clear they knew I had accessed those files. 3 days later, my accident happened." Maxwell's analytical mind began connecting pieces, professional instincts temporarily overriding personal shock. "You believed our children were targeted?" "I knew they were." Olivia's certainty was chilling. The crash wasn't random. It was a warning. And I realized that as long as whoever was behind this believed I might have shared information with you, our unborn children would be their most effective leverage. "So you let me believe they died." The pain in his voice was raw. "You let me grieve for children who were alive." "I let everyone believe they died," Olivia corrected, her own pain evident. "It was the only way to remove them as targets while I investigated. I never intended it to last this long, but the conspiracy goes deeper than I initially thought." Every lead exposed more danger. Maxwell studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. Instead, he saw only exhaustion, determination, and fear. Not for herself, but for their children. "Why come to me now? Why not continue the deception?" "Because Lily needs you." Olivia's composure finally cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "She has a rare blood disorder that's suddenly become acute. She needs a transfusion from someone with your exact blood type. Without it..." She couldn't finish the sentence. The reality of the situation crystallized with terrible clarity. A daughter he had never met was fighting for her life. Whatever Olivia's reasons, whatever his anger and sense of betrayal, nothing mattered more than that simple fact. "Where is she?" he asked, already reaching for his phone. "At a private medical facility outside the city. Dr. Eleanor Wright has been caring for them since birth." Maxwell's fingers paused over his phone. Eleanor Wright, the specialist in high-risk multiple births. A new piece clicked into place. "She was your college roommate." Olivia nodded. "One of the few people I trust completely. And the evidence you found? Do you still have it?" "Copies, secured in multiple locations. But I haven't been able to identify who's behind it all. Whoever it is has covered their tracks expertly and has significant access within Horizon." Maxwell made a decision, setting aside the maelstrom of emotions to focus on immediate priorities. "First, we save our daughter. Then we deal with the threat." And then, his eyes locked with Olivia's. "We have a very long conversation about trust, deception, and the past 8 months." Relief washed over Olivia's face, followed quickly by caution. "We need to be careful. If whoever is behind this realizes the triplets are alive." "They won't," Maxwell interrupted, a dangerous edge entering his voice. "Because while you've been investigating from the outside, I've been conducting my own internal security review. I've suspected a breach for months, though I never connected it to your accident." His expression darkened. "I have resources you don't, Olivia, and now I have motivation you can't begin to imagine." For the first time in 8 months, Olivia saw a glimpse of the man she had fallen in love with, brilliant, determined, unstoppable when protecting what he cared about. "My helicopter is on the roof," Maxwell continued, already moving toward the door. "It can have us at any location within hours. Call Dr. Wright and tell her we're coming." As they moved toward the elevator, Maxwell suddenly stopped, turning to face Olivia with an expression of vulnerable wonder breaking through his controlled facade. "They're really alive? All 3 of them?" Olivia reached into her bag and withdrew her phone, opening it to a photo taken just days ago. 3 infants with Maxwell's amber eyes and her dark hair, nestled together in a crib. "They're alive," she confirmed softly, "and they need both their parents now." Maxwell stared at the image, memorizing every detail of the children he had grieved, the family he had believed lost forever. When he looked up, his eyes held a complex mixture of pain, joy, and fierce resolve. "Let's go save our daughter," he said, "and then let's bring our family home." As they stepped into the elevator, the rain outside began to ease, sunlight breaking through clouds in tentative beams. Neither Olivia nor Maxwell noticed the change in weather, both focused entirely on the journey ahead. A journey that would either heal their broken family or shatter it beyond repair. If you've ever experienced a moment when everything you believed was suddenly turned upside down, hit that like button now. And if you believe that even the deepest wounds can be healed when the truth finally comes to light, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that explore the complexities of love, trust, and redemption. The helicopter cut through darkening skies, racing against both the setting sun and the clock ticking on Lily's condition. Inside the luxurious cabin, Maxwell sat rigidly across from Olivia, his expression unreadable as he processed the magnitude of her deception. "Tell me about them," he said finally, breaking the tense silence. "My children." Olivia's eyes softened, maternal love momentarily overshadowing the strain of their situation. "Lily is the oldest by 4 minutes. She's serious and observant, always watching everything. She has your focus, your intensity. And the blood disorder? It appeared about a month ago. Eleanor says it's a rare form of anemia that sometimes occurs in multiples. We've been managing it with medications, but yesterday her levels crashed suddenly." Maxwell nodded, absorbing this. "The others?" "Ethan came next. He's the most active, always moving, always curious. He'll be crawling any day now." A small smile touched her lips. "And Mia is our little diplomat. When the others are fussy, she's the calm one. But when she wants attention, she makes sure everyone knows it." "They have names," Maxwell said quietly, almost to himself. personalities. 8 months of life I've missed while believing they were dead. The accusation hung unspoken between them. Olivia met his gaze directly. I made the only choice I could with the information I had, Maxwell. I was pregnant with triplets when someone tried to kill me. What would you have done? I would have trusted my spouse, he replied sharply. I would have come to you with what I knew, and we would have faced the threat together. Even if coming to you might have put you in danger? Even if whoever was targeting me might have been watching you too. Olivia leaned forward. I overheard your conversation that night, Maxwell, about keeping problems from me, about handling things before they reached your desk. Confusion crossed his face. What conversation? The night before my accident. You were on the phone in your office talking about the Pentagon audit, about keeping problems from me. Recognition dawned in Maxwell's eyes. With James. I was talking to James Whitfield. Your CO. Your oldest friend. Olivia's voice tightened. And the man who's been selling your technology to Anton Resnick while setting you up to take the fall. Maxwell stared at her, shock evident in his expression. James? That's not possible. He helped me build Horizon from nothing. He's been with me for 20 years. I have the evidence, Maxwell. Digital fingerprints linking him directly to Resnick's organization. Communications, financial transfers, shipping manifests. All carefully designed to implicate you if the operation was ever discovered. Why would he? Maxwell began, then stopped as pieces clicked into place. The Chinese contract. If Horizon secured exclusive rights to provide encryption systems to the Chinese military, our company value would triple overnight. Olivia nodded. And if you were suddenly implicated in selling restricted technology to terrorist organizations, the contract would go to our main competitor, Quantum Shield, Maxwell finished, where James owns significant stock options through a shell company. His expression hardened. He's been playing both sides, and he was willing to eliminate anyone who might expose him, Olivia added quietly, including your pregnant wife and unborn children. The helicopter began its descent toward a clearing beside a sprawling, modern building nestled in the mountains, its windows glowing warmly against the twilight. Maxwell stared out at the facility that had housed his children for their entire lives. Children he hadn't known existed until hours ago. We're not done with this conversation, he said as the helicopter touched down. But right now our daughter needs us. Dr. Eleanor Wright met them at the entrance, her professional demeanor barely masking her concern. A tall woman with silver-streaked dark hair and penetrating eyes, she assessed Maxwell with a single glance. Mr. Donovan, she greeted him with a brief nod. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. Where is she? Maxwell asked, ignoring the pleasantries. This way. Eleanor led them through secure doors and down a corridor to a medical suite that looked more like a high-end pediatric hospital than a hiding place. We've stabilized her for now, but her hemoglobin levels continue to drop. We need to begin the transfusion as soon as possible. They entered a room where a nurse sat beside an incubator, monitoring a tiny form connected to various machines. Maxwell stopped in the doorway, his breath catching at the sight of his daughter for the first time. Lily was smaller than he had imagined, her skin pale against the white sheets, dark hair forming a wispy halo around her delicate face. Despite the medical equipment surrounding her, despite her evident fragility, she was the most perfect thing Maxwell had ever seen. Lily, he whispered, approaching the incubator with reverent steps. I'm here now. Daddy's here. As if sensing his presence, the baby's eyes fluttered open. Amber eyes, exactly like his own, regarding him with solemn curiosity. She knows you, Olivia said softly from behind him. I've shown them your picture every day. Told them stories about their father. Maxwell couldn't speak, emotion closing his throat as he gently touched his daughter's tiny hand through the opening in the incubator. Her fingers reflexively curled around his. A grip so small yet so powerful it seemed to reach directly into his chest and squeeze his heart. We need to begin the transfusion, Eleanor said gently, breaking the moment. Mr. Donovan, if you'll come with me, we'll get you prepped. Maxwell nodded, reluctantly withdrawing his finger from Lily's grasp. "Will she be all right?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "With your blood, yes. Her condition is serious but treatable." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "She's a fighter, Mr. Donovan. Like her father, I'm told." As Eleanor led Maxwell to an adjoining room to prepare for the blood donation, Olivia stayed beside Lily's incubator, gently stroking her daughter's cheek. "He's here now," she whispered to the baby, "just like I promised. And soon we'll all be together, the way we should have been from the beginning." The transfusion process took nearly 2 hours, during which Maxwell insisted on remaining beside Lily's incubator, watching as his blood flowed through tubes into his daughter's tiny body. Gradually, color returned to her pale cheeks, and her vital signs strengthened on the monitors. "It's working," Eleanor confirmed, checking Lily's latest readings. "Her levels are stabilizing. She'll need close monitoring and possibly additional transfusions, but the immediate crisis has passed." Relief washed over Maxwell's face. "When can I see the others? Ethan and Mia?" Eleanor glanced at Olivia, who nodded. "They're in the nursery. I'll take you there once we're sure Lily is stable." "I want to see them now," Maxwell said, his tone brooking no argument. "I've lost 8 months with my children. I won't lose another minute." Eleanor hesitated, then nodded. "I'll stay with Lily. The nursery is down the hall, 3rd door on the right." Maxwell stood, his gaze lingering on Lily before turning to Olivia. "Show me our children." They walked in silence down the corridor, tension vibrating between them, the weight of deception, of grief, of lost time impossible to ignore. Outside the nursery door, Olivia paused. "They might be sleeping," she said softly. "They usually nap around this time." Maxwell nodded, suddenly nervous in a way he hadn't been since pitching his first major investor 15 years ago. "What did you say to children who didn't know you, who had lived their entire lives without you believing, or rather being told, what? That their father was dead? Away? Did 8-month-old babies even understand the concept of fathers?" Olivia opened the door to reveal a spacious, cheerfully decorated nursery with 2 cribs, a rocking chair, and walls painted with whimsical animals. In one crib, a dark-haired baby boy was decidedly not sleeping, instead energetically attempting to pull himself up on the rails while babbling happily to himself. In the other, a baby girl lay quietly watching her brother's antics, occasionally offering a commentary of coups. "Ethan, Mia." Maxwell breathed their names like a prayer, frozen in the doorway as he took in the sight of his children. Maxwell stepped into the nursery with the reverence of a man entering sacred ground. Ethan noticed him first, pausing in his acrobatics to stare at the newcomer with wide, curious eyes. Maxwell's eyes, in a face that somehow combined his features with Olivia's in perfect harmony. "Hello, Ethan," Maxwell said softly, approaching the crib. "I'm your father." The baby studied him solemnly for a moment, then broke into a gummy smile so sudden and radiant that Maxwell felt his knees weaken. Without hesitation, he reached down and lifted his son into his arms for the first time. The weight of him, solid, warm, alive, shattered something inside Maxwell. This was his child, his son. Not a ghost, not a memory, but a living, breathing miracle who smelled of baby powder and innocence. "He likes to be held facing outward," Olivia said gently, "so he can see everything." Maxwell adjusted his grip, turning Ethan to face the room while supporting him securely against his chest. The baby immediately relaxed, leaning back against him with complete trust, as if he'd been held by his father 1,000 times before. "And Mia," Maxwell said, his voice thick with emotion as he turned toward the second crib. "May I?" Olivia nodded, moving to lift the baby girl who was now watching them intently. "This is your daddy, Mia," she said, transferring the infant into Maxwell's free arm. Holding both twins, one in each arm, Maxwell felt a completeness he hadn't known was possible. The hollow space that grief had carved inside him filled with something warm and fierce and protective. A love so powerful it bordered on pain. "They know me," he whispered in wonder as Mia reached up to pat his cheek with a tiny hand. How can they know me? I told you. I've shown them your pictures every day. Told them stories about you. Olivia's voice caught. I never wanted them to grow up not knowing their father. I just needed to keep them safe until I could prove what was happening at Horizon. Maxwell looked up from the babies to meet Olivia's gaze, his expression complex. Anger and wonder, hurt and gratitude impossibly intertwined. We should have faced it together. Whatever the threat, whatever the risk, we should have faced it as a family. I know that now, Olivia admitted quietly. But at the time, all I could think about was protecting them. After the accident, when everyone believed they had died, I realized it was the perfect cover. No one would target children who were already thought to be gone. And me? Did you ever consider what it would do to me, believing my children were dead? Pain flashed across Olivia's face. Every day, every single day I saw what it was doing to you, and it broke my heart. But I told myself it was temporary. Just until I found enough evidence to expose Whitfield without putting you or the children at risk. 8 months, Olivia. 8 months of grief that hollowed me out. 8 months of blaming myself, wondering if I could have done something differently, if I had somehow failed to protect you and our children. Maxwell's voice was low, controlled, but vibrating with emotion. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I do, she whispered, because I watched it happen. I lived with the consequences of my choice every day, seeing you withdraw, seeing you build walls around yourself that eventually shut me out too. Ethan, sensing the tension, began to fuss. Maxwell instinctively bounced him gently, the motion coming naturally despite his lack of experience. The baby settled immediately, sighing contentedly against his chest. You're a natural, Olivia observed softly. I should have had 8 months to practice, Maxwell replied, but the edge in his voice had softened as he looked down at his children. I should have been here for their birth, for their first smiles, their first laughs. I know, and I'm sorry. More sorry than I can ever express. Olivia moved closer, gently adjusting Mia's position in his arm. But you're here now. They need you now. And if you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday, we can try to be the family they deserve. Before Maxwell could respond, the nursery door opened and Eleanor appeared, her expression relieved. Lily's readings have stabilized completely. The transfusion was successful. Thank God, Olivia breathed. Can she be moved in here with her siblings? Maxwell asked. Eleanor nodded. I'll have the nurses bring her in. She should be with her family. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Despite everything, the deception, the separation, the grief and anger, they were still a family. Broken, wounded, but bound by these 3 innocent lives who deserved parents who could move beyond the pain of the past. We need to talk about Whitfield, Maxwell said as Eleanor left to arrange Lily's transfer. If he's behind the technology sales and your accident, he's still a threat to all of us. I have evidence, Olivia confirmed, but it's circumstantial. Enough to raise serious questions, but not enough for a conviction. I need access to Horizon's secure servers to find the final connections, which you can't get without alerting him. Maxwell's mind was already working, strategizing as he gently swayed with his children in his arms. But I can. As CEO, I can initiate a security audit that would give me access to everything without raising suspicions. He'll cover his tracks if he suspects anything. Not if we move quickly. Maxwell's expression hardened with determination. Tomorrow morning, I'll call an emergency board meeting to discuss potential security breaches ahead of the Chinese contract finalization. It will give me legitimate reason to access all servers and communications. And tonight, Olivia asked. Maxwell looked down at the babies in his arms, then back at Olivia. Tonight, I stay here, with my children, all of them. The relief in Olivia's eyes was palpable. I'll have the staff prepare a room for you. No, Maxwell said firmly. I'll stay in the nursery. I've missed 8 months of their lives, Olivia. I won't miss another moment. If you've ever had to rebuild trust after it's been shattered, hit that like button. And if you believe that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most meaningful destinations, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that remind us of the power of forgiveness and the enduring strength of family bonds. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the medical facility in soft golden light. In the nursery, Maxwell sat in the rocking chair, Lily sleeping peacefully in his arms while Ethan and Mia played on a blanket at his feet. He hadn't slept, couldn't bear to close his eyes and miss a single precious moment with the children he had thought forever lost to him. Olivia appeared in the doorway, her expression cautious. "The helicopter pilot says we're clear for takeoff whenever you're ready." Maxwell nodded, his gaze never leaving Lily's sleeping face. "How soon can the children be moved safely?" "Lily especially. Eleanor says Lily is stable enough for travel, but she'll need continued medical supervision." Olivia hesitated. "Maxwell, where exactly are we taking them? We can't just walk 3 supposedly dead babies into your penthouse." "Not my penthouse," Maxwell agreed. "My family's estate in Connecticut. It's secure, isolated, and has a fully equipped medical suite from when my father was ill. The staff there is completely loyal. They've been with my family for generations. And Whitfield, won't he find it suspicious that you've suddenly disappeared to Connecticut right after signing divorce papers?" "I've already thought of that." Maxwell carefully transferred Lily to her crib, then stood to face Olivia. "I'll tell him I need space after finalizing the divorce. It's believable. He's seen what I've been like these past 8 months. Meanwhile, I'll remotely access Horizon's servers from the estate and find the evidence we need." Olivia nodded slowly. "It could work, but we need to be careful about who knows the children are alive. If word gets back to Whitfield before we have concrete proof of his crimes, no one will know except the estate staff, and they answer only to me." Maxwell's expression was resolute. "By this time tomorrow, we'll have everything we need to expose Whitfield and end this nightmare once and for all." 3 hours later, Maxwell's private helicopter touched down on the manicured grounds of Donovan Estate, a sprawling 19th-century mansion set on 100 acres of woodland an hour outside New York City. A medical team waited discreetly by the helipad, ready to transport Lily to the estate's medical suite. As Maxwell carried Ethan and Mia toward the house, with Olivia following close behind with Lily and the medical team, the estate's longtime housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, stood waiting at the entrance. Her normally impassive expression cracked with shock as she took in the sight of the infants. "Mr. Donovan?" she questioned, confusion evident in her voice. "Mrs. Winters," Maxwell acknowledged with a nod. "I'll explain everything once we're settled. For now, please prepare the East Wing nursery and ensure that all staff understand that absolute discretion is required." "Of course, sir." The housekeeper's professional demeanor reasserted itself immediately. "The medical suite is ready as you requested. Dr. Harmon arrived an hour ago." "Excellent. Please show Dr. Wright and her team there with Lily." "Mrs. Winters, this is Olivia's friend, Dr. Eleanor Wright. She's been caring for our children since their birth." If Mrs. Winters was surprised by this statement, given that the entire household had grieved the loss of the Donovan triplets 8 months earlier, she showed no sign of it beyond a slight widening of her eyes. "This way, doctor," she said, leading Eleanor and the medical team toward the East Wing. Maxwell led Olivia and the twins to the mansion's grand foyer, where sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across marble floors. Ethan squirmed in his arms, eager to explore this new environment, while Mia observed everything with solemn curiosity. "The nursery was prepared before," Maxwell's voice faltered. "Before the accident. It's been kept exactly as it was. Mrs. Winters couldn't bear to dismantle it." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "You had a nursery ready for them." "Of course I did. They were our children, Olivia. I wanted everything perfect for their arrival." The pain of those memories shadowed his face. "I used to stand in that empty room, trying to imagine what they would have looked like, what it would have felt like to hold them. And now you know," Olivia said softly. "Now I know." Maxwell looked down at the babies in his arms, then back at Olivia. "Let's get them settled. Then we have work to do." The East Wing nursery was exactly as Maxwell had described. A spacious, sunlit room with 3 identical cribs arranged in a semicircle, each with its own mobile of stars and planets hanging above. A rocking chair sat by the window, overlooking gardens that stretched toward distant woods. Shelves lined with children's books and stuffed animals waited for little hands to discover them. As they settled the twins into their cribs, Ethan immediately attempting to climb the rails, while Mia contentedly examined a stuffed elephant. Maxwell's phone rang. The screen displayed James Whitfield's name. Maxwell and Olivia exchanged a glance. "I have to take this," he said. "Act normal, remember?" Olivia nodded, moving to intercept Ethan's latest escape attempt while Maxwell stepped into the hallway to answer. "James," he greeted, keeping his voice casual despite the rage simmering beneath the surface. "What's up? Max, where are you?" Whitfield's voice carried a note of concern. "Your assistant said you left suddenly yesterday and haven't checked in. The Chinese delegation arrives tomorrow for the final contract signing." "I'm at the Connecticut estate," Maxwell replied smoothly. "Needed some space after finalizing things with Olivia." "Ah," sympathy colored Whitfield's tone, sympathy that Maxwell now recognized as utterly false. "I understand. But the Chinese contract will be signed as scheduled. I'll be back in New York tomorrow morning." Maxwell kept his voice steady, betraying nothing of what he now knew. "Meanwhile, I'm handling some security reviews remotely. The Pentagon raised some concerns about our encryption protocols that I want to address before the Chinese signing." A pause so brief it would have been imperceptible to anyone who didn't know what to listen for. "Security concerns? This is the first I'm hearing of this. Just came in yesterday. Nothing serious, but I want to be thorough." Maxwell injected a note of weariness into his voice. "You know how it is, James. Government contracts. Endless hoops to jump through." "Of course." Whitfield's tone relaxed slightly. "Anything I can help with?" "Not at the moment. I'll call if I need you." Maxwell ended the call and returned to the nursery, where Olivia was watching him expectantly. "He suspects nothing," Maxwell confirmed. "But he will if we don't move quickly. I need to access Horizon's secure servers now, before he has time to wonder why I'm suddenly concerned about security protocols." Olivia nodded, gently tucking a blanket around Mia, who was beginning to doze. "What do you need from me?" "Your evidence. Everything you've gathered on Whitfield's connection to Resnick. I'll cross-reference it with what I find in the server logs." For the next several hours, while the twins napped and Eleanor monitored Lily in the medical suite, Maxwell and Olivia worked side by side in his father's old study. Olivia's evidence was meticulously organized, access logs showing unauthorized entry to restricted servers, shipping manifests with discrepancies in quantities of specialized components, encrypted communications using Horizon's own protocols but outside official channels. "It's all circumstantial," Maxwell observed, reviewing her findings. "Damning when viewed together, but each piece could be explained away individually. That's why I needed access to the secure servers," Olivia explained. "I believe Whitfield has been using a shadow system within Horizon's network, a parallel structure that allows him to divert small quantities of technology without triggering security alerts." Maxwell nodded, his fingers flying over his keyboard as he remotely accessed Horizon's most secure systems. "If that's true, there would be trace evidence in the power consumption logs. Even a shadow system needs electricity." Working together, they methodically combed through layers of security, Maxwell's CEO credentials providing access that Olivia had been unable to obtain from outside. As evening fell, casting long shadows across the study, they finally found what they were looking for. There, Olivia pointed to a series of anomalies in the power consumption data for Horizon's main server farm. Regular spikes every Tuesday at 2 a.m., when system usage should be at its lowest. Automated backups to an external location, Maxwell confirmed, tracing the data flow. But not to any of our authorized backup sites. His expression hardened as he followed the digital trail. "It's going to a server in the Cayman Islands, registered to a shell company that I'm willing to bet connects back to Whitfield. Can you access the backup server?" "Not directly. but I can see what's being sent there. Maxwell's fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols with his override credentials. Transaction records. Technical specifications for our most advanced military-grade encryption modules. And he stopped abruptly, staring at the screen. Communications with Anton Resnick's organization, using my digital signature. He forged your authorization, Olivia said, leaning closer to examine the documents. Not just forged. These are actual communications from my account. Maxwell's voice was tight with controlled fury. He must have installed a backdoor in my system years ago, giving him access to my digital signature and authentication protocols. Can you prove it wasn't you? Yes. Maxwell pointed to timestamps on several communications. These were sent while I was giving the keynote address at the Tokyo Tech Summit last year. There are hundreds of witnesses and video recordings proving I was on stage at exactly these times. Olivia's expression lightened with hope. That's it. That's the proof we need. Not quite enough, Maxwell countered, still working. We need to connect these communications directly to Whitfield, not just prove they weren't from me. He paused, a grim smile spreading across his face. And here it is. The backdoor program itself, installed on my system 5 years ago, and the access logs showing it's only ever been activated from one IP address. Whitfield's. His private terminal at Horizon. The one only he has access to. Maxwell sat back, satisfaction evident in his expression. We've got him, Olivia. Unauthorized access to my account, forged communications with a known arms dealer, technology diversions, all traceable directly to him. Relief washed over Olivia's face. It's finally over. Not quite. Maxwell's expression remained serious. We have the evidence, but Whitfield is still dangerous. We need to handle this carefully. What's our next move? I contact the FBI's Cybercrime Division. I have a direct line to the assistant director. We've worked with them on security protocols in the past. Maxwell reached for his phone. Once they have this evidence, they can move against Whitfield immediately. And the children? Olivia asked, her voice tight with concern. When do we tell the world they're alive? Maxwell paused, considering. Not until Whitfield is in custody. Not until we're absolutely certain there's no threat to them. His expression softened as he looked toward the nursery wing. They've been hidden away their entire lives, Olivia. A few more days won't matter. And us? The question hung between them, laden with 8 months of grief, deception, and the divorce papers signed just yesterday. Maxwell met her gaze directly. That's complicated. You kept my children from me, Olivia. Made me believe they were dead. Let me grieve them while you visited them in secret. To protect them, she reminded him quietly. To protect you. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion and emotion evident in the gesture. And part of me understands that. But understanding doesn't erase the pain, the sense of betrayal. He looked at her, conflict clear in his eyes. I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again. Pain flashed across Olivia's face, but she nodded. I understand. I made my choice knowing it might cost me your love. But I would make the same choice again to keep our children safe. Before Maxwell could respond, a soft knock at the study door interrupted them. Mrs. Winters appeared, her usual composure slightly ruffled. Mr. Donovan, forgive the interruption, but Dr. Wright asked me to inform you that Lily is awake and asking for her mother. And she hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. There's a call for you on the secure line. A Mr. Whitfield. He says it's urgent. Maxwell and Olivia exchanged alarmed glances. Did you tell him I was here? Olivia asked sharply. Of course not, ma'am. I would never. It's all right, Mrs. Winters, Maxwell interrupted smoothly. Please tell Dr. Wright that Olivia will be there shortly. I'll take the call in here. As the housekeeper withdrew, Maxwell turned to Olivia. Go to Lily. I'll handle Whitfield. Be careful, Olivia warned. If he suspects anything. He won't. Maxwell's expression hardened into the mask of control he wore in the boardroom. I've been hiding my grief from the world for 8 months. I can hide my knowledge of his betrayal for a few more hours. Olivia hesitated, then nodded and hurried toward the medical suite. Maxwell waited until she was gone before picking up the secure line. "James," he greeted, his voice betraying nothing of the rage simmering beneath the surface. "What's so urgent it couldn't wait until morning?" "Max." Whitfield's voice was tense, lacking its usual smooth confidence. "We have a situation. The Pentagon security team just contacted me. They've detected unusual access patterns to our secure servers. Someone using your credentials to dig through classified files." Maxwell's mind raced. Whitfield was testing him, trying to determine if Maxwell himself was behind the server access. "That's impossible. I'm the only one with those credentials. Exactly why I'm concerned." A pause. Then, "Max, is Olivia with you?" The question sent a chill down Maxwell's spine. "Olivia? Why would she be here? We signed divorce papers yesterday." "Because the access originated from your estate's IP address, and some of the files being accessed match exactly the ones Olivia was investigating before her accident." Maxwell forced a laugh, though his hand tightened around the phone. "You think my ex-wife broke into my family estate to hack Horizon servers? That's absurd, James." "Is it? Because my security team just traced a call from the estate to Dr. Eleanor Wright's private clinic. The same Dr. Wright who was Olivia's college roommate and who signed the death certificates for your children." The blood froze in Maxwell's veins. Whitfield knew. Somehow he knew. "I'm coming up there, Max," Whitfield continued, his voice hardening. "We need to talk face to face. I'll be there in an hour." "No need," Maxwell replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. "I'll come back to the city. Meet you at the office. I insist." The pretense of friendly concern had vanished from Whitfield's tone. "Stay where you are. I'm already on my way." The line went dead. Maxwell immediately dialed the FBI contact, cursing when it went to voicemail. He left an urgent message, then rushed to find Olivia. He found her in the medical suite, cradling Lily while Eleanor checked the baby's vital signs. The peaceful domestic scene contrasted sharply with the danger now racing toward them. "We need to move. Now." Maxwell's tone left no room for questions. "Whitfield knows. He's on his way here." Olivia's face drained of color. "How?" "He's been monitoring the estate's communications. He knows we contacted Eleanor's clinic, and he's traced our access to Horizon servers." Maxwell turned to Eleanor. "Can Lily be moved safely?" The doctor hesitated. "She's stable, but another move so soon. We don't have a choice," Maxwell cut in. "Whitfield will be here in less than an hour, and he's not coming alone." Understanding the gravity of the situation, Eleanor nodded. "I'll prepare her for transport." "Where are we going?" "The boathouse," Maxwell decided. "It has a hidden room my grandfather built during Prohibition. You'll be safe there while I deal with Whitfield." "Deal with him?" Olivia stood, still holding Lily. "Maxwell, he's dangerous. He tried to kill me once already. We should all leave. If we all disappear, he'll know something's wrong. He'll run, and we'll lose our chance to bring him to justice." Maxwell's expression was resolute. "I'll stall him while you and the children hide. The FBI should be here soon. I left an urgent message. And if they don't come in time? If Whitfield realizes you know?" "He won't." Maxwell's confidence was absolute. "I've been negotiating with killers and dictators for 20 years, Olivia. I can handle James Whitfield for a few hours." Despite her evident fear, Olivia nodded. "All right, but promise me you'll be careful. Our children need their father." The simple statement hit Maxwell with unexpected force. Our children need their father. After 8 months of believing his children were dead, after the shock and anger of discovering Olivia's deception, this fundamental truth remained. 3 innocent lives depended on him now. "I promise," he said softly, then turned to practical matters. "Mrs. Winters will help you move the twins to the boathouse. Take only what you absolutely need. There's a secure phone line there. I'll call when it's safe to come out." As Olivia and Eleanor prepared the children for their hasty relocation, Maxwell returned to the study to implement the second part of his plan. Using his CEO override codes, he remotely activated Horizon's emergency security protocols, locking down all servers and initiating an automatic backup of the evidence they discovered to the FBI's secure server. If anything happened to him, the evidence against Whitfield would still reach the authorities. 40 minutes later, with Olivia and the children safely hidden in the boathouse's secret room, Maxwell stood alone in the estate's grand foyer, waiting. He had deliberately left the evidence of their investigation visible on his computer, a calculated risk designed to draw Whitfield into revealing his true intentions. Headlights swept across the driveway as a car approached. Not Whitfield's usual luxury sedan, Maxwell noted, but a nondescript SUV with tinted windows. Moments later, the security system announced visitors at the main gate. Maxwell remotely unlocked the gate, then positioned himself casually in his father's study, a glass of scotch in hand, the picture of a man seeking solitude after finalizing his divorce. The front door opened, and footsteps echoed through the marble foyer. Multiple sets of footsteps. Maxwell tensed slightly. Whitfield hadn't come alone. "Max!" Whitfield's voice called out. "Where are you?" "In the study," Maxwell replied, taking a deliberate sip of his scotch. James Whitfield appeared in the doorway, impeccably dressed as always, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile as practiced and empty as a politician's. Behind him stood two men Maxwell didn't recognize. Large, expressionless men whose bulky jackets likely concealed weapons. "James." Maxwell nodded in greeting, betraying no surprise at the additional visitors. "You didn't mention you were bringing company." "Security consultants," Whitfield explained smoothly. "Given the potential breach we discussed, I thought it prudent." "Of course." Maxwell gestured to the scotch decanter. "Drink." "No, thank you." Whitfield stepped further into the room, his gaze sweeping over the computer where evidence of his crimes was deliberately displayed. "I see you've been busy." "Just following up on those Pentagon concerns," Maxwell replied casually. "Interesting what you find when you really dig into the server logs, isn't it?" Whitfield's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, Max, when did Olivia contact you?" The direct question confirmed Maxwell's suspicions. Whitfield knew far more than he should. Maintaining his facade of ignorance was pointless now. "Yesterday," he answered truthfully, "after signing the divorce papers." "And she told you about the children?" Maxwell allowed genuine emotion to show in his expression. The wonder and joy he'd felt upon learning his children were alive. "Yes, she told me everything." "Not quite everything, I suspect." Whitfield sighed, a sound of false regret. "She probably painted me as the villain in this little drama. The traitor selling Horizon technology to terrorists, framing you in the process." "And aren't you?" Maxwell asked quietly. Whitfield laughed, the sound chilling in its authenticity. "Of course I am, but it's so much more complicated than Olivia understands." He moved to the window, looking out at the darkened grounds. "Do you know what happens when you create technology that can change the world, Max? You become a target. Governments, corporations, terrorists, they all want what you have. So you decided to sell to all sides? Play every angle." "I decided to control the inevitable." Whitfield turned back to face him. Horizon's technology was going to leak eventually. By managing that leak, directing it to specific buyers, I could maximize profit while maintaining the illusion of security that keeps our government contracts flowing. While setting me up to take the fall if it was ever discovered, Maxwell added, his voice hardening. "A necessary precaution." Whitfield shrugged, unapologetic. "You were always too idealistic, Max, too concerned with ethics and legalities. I needed insurance." "And Olivia? The accident? Was that insurance too?" Something darkened in Whitfield's expression. "An unfortunate necessity. She was getting too close to the truth. I only meant to scare her, to send a warning. The crash was more severe than intended." "You tried to kill my pregnant wife," Maxwell said, each word precise and cold. And now I find myself in the awkward position of having to finish what I started. Whitfield nodded to the men behind him who moved further into the room. Where are they, Max? Where are Olivia and the children? Gone. Maxwell met Whitfield's gaze steadily. I sent them away as soon as I realized you were coming. They're beyond your reach now. Anger flashed across Whitfield's carefully controlled features. I don't believe you. This estate has been under surveillance since you arrived. No one has left. There are ways in and out of this property that don't appear on any blueprints, Maxwell replied calmly. My grandfather was a cautious man during Prohibition. Whitfield studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Search the house, he instructed the men. Find them. As the men left to begin their search, Whitfield turned back to Maxwell. This could have been handled so much more cleanly, Max. A tragic murder-suicide following a bitter divorce and the loss of your children. The grieving father who finally snapped under the weight of his pain. Is that how you planned to explain my death? Maxwell asked, his voice steady despite the chill that ran through him at Whitfield's casual discussion of his murder. It would have been believable. Everyone at Horizon has seen your decline these past 8 months. Whitfield removed a handgun from his jacket pocket. Still, plans can be adjusted. Perhaps you discovered your ex-wife's deception, that she had faked the children's deaths, and your rage led to violence. Maxwell's eyes fixed on the weapon. The FBI already has the evidence, James. I transmitted everything to them before you arrived. A bluff, Whitfield replied confidently. Our communications are being jammed. Nothing has left this estate since I arrived. A noise from the hallway drew their attention, one of Whitfield's men returning. The east wing is clear, he reported. Johnson is checking the west wing and the servants' quarters. And the staff? Whitfield asked. Secured in the kitchen. The housekeeper is being uncooperative about the location of Mrs. Donovan and the children. Mrs. Winters is loyal to my family, Maxwell said, a hint of pride in his voice. She won't tell you anything. Everyone talks eventually, Whitfield replied coldly. It's simply a matter of proper motivation. He gestured with the gun. Now, Max, why don't we expedite this process? Tell me where Olivia and the children are, and I promise their deaths will be quick and painless. You're not leaving this estate a free man, James, Maxwell said quietly. Whether you find them or not, this ends tonight. Bold words from a man at gunpoint. Whitfield's finger tightened slightly on the trigger. Last chance, Max. Where are they? Maxwell opened his mouth to respond when the distant sound of helicopter rotors cut through the night. Relief washed through him. The FBI had received his message after all. Whitfield's expression tightened with alarm. What is that? That, Maxwell said with grim satisfaction, is the sound of your empire collapsing. Rage contorted Whitfield's features as he realized he'd been outmaneuvered. With a snarl of frustration, he lunged forward, the gun aimed directly at Maxwell's heart. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Maxwell dove to the side as the gun discharged, the bullet splintering the wood paneling behind where he had stood. He crashed into his father's antique desk, sending the scotch decanter shattering to the floor. Whitfield adjusted his aim for a second shot, but before he could fire, the study door burst open. Mrs. Winters stood in the doorway, Maxwell's father's old shotgun in her hands, aimed steadily at Whitfield. Drop it, Mr. Whitfield, the elderly housekeeper commanded, her voice as firm as if she were instructing a footman on proper table setting. I won't ask twice. Whitfield froze, clearly calculating his odds against the double-barreled weapon in the housekeeper's steady hands. After a tense moment, he slowly lowered his gun. A wise decision, Maxwell said, rising cautiously from behind the desk. Mrs. Winters was skeet shooting champion of Connecticut 3 years running in her youth. For years, the housekeeper corrected primly, never taking her eyes or her aim off Whitfield. The authorities have arrived, Mr. Donovan. They're securing the grounds now. As if to confirm her words, shouts and the sound of running footsteps echoed through the mansion. Moments later, FBI agents in tactical gear flooded the study, quickly disarming and restraining Whitfield. Mr. Donovan. A tall woman in a dark suit approached, showing her credentials. Assistant Director Harlow, FBI Cybercrime Division. We received your evidence transmission and your emergency call. Mr. Whitfield and his associates will be taken into custody immediately. Relief washed over Maxwell. My family are safe, Harlow assured him. We have agents escorting them from the boathouse now. Maxwell turned to Mrs. Winters, who had finally lowered the shotgun. Thank you, he said simply. The housekeeper nodded, her usual composure returning. The Donovan family has employed me for 43 years, sir. I protect what's mine. With that, she turned and walked regally from the room, shotgun still in hand. As Whitfield was led away in handcuffs, he paused beside Maxwell. This isn't over, he hissed. You have no idea how deep this goes, how many powerful people are involved. Save it for your testimony, Maxwell replied coldly. Maybe cooperation will keep you off death row. Whitfield's face paled slightly before the agents escorted him from the room, his empire crumbling around him with each step. Maxwell didn't waste another moment on his former friend and betrayer. Instead, he rushed outside, toward the path leading to the boathouse. In the distance, he could see a small procession making its way toward the main house. Olivia carrying Lily, flanked by FBI agents, while Eleanor followed with the twins in a double stroller. Under the silver moonlight, they looked like a vision. His family, alive and safe, coming home at last. Olivia, he called, breaking into a run. She looked up, relief washing over her face as she saw him unharmed. Maxwell, is it over? Is Whitfield in custody? He confirmed, reaching her side and immediately checking Lily. The FBI has him. It's over. Thank God. Olivia breathed, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. When we heard the gunshot, Mrs. Winters saved my life, Maxwell said, still somewhat amazed by that fact. Apparently, she keeps my father's shotgun in working order. Despite the tension of the night, Olivia laughed, a sound of pure relief. Remind me to give her a raise. A substantial one, Maxwell agreed, gently taking Lily from Olivia's arms. The baby was awake, her amber eyes studying her father's face with solemn curiosity. Hello, little one. You're safe now. You're all safe now. As they walked back to the house together, Maxwell felt a profound shift within himself, as if the pieces of his shattered heart were finally beginning to realign, not into their original formation, but into something new, something stronger. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. The FBI investigation into Whitfield's crimes expanded rapidly, revealing a network of corruption that extended into government agencies and foreign corporations. Maxwell cooperated fully, providing access to all of Horizon's systems and records. Meanwhile, the world learned the extraordinary truth. The Donovan triplets had not died in the accident 8 months ago, but had been hidden away to protect them from a dangerous conspiracy. The media frenzy was intense, but Maxwell's security team kept reporters well away from the Connecticut estate where the family remained secluded. On the third evening after Whitfield's arrest, Maxwell found Olivia in the nursery, watching over the sleeping triplets. Lily had been moved from the medical suite, her condition now stable enough to join her siblings. The 3 cribs formed a perfect semicircle, each containing a peacefully sleeping child. They look like angels, Maxwell observed softly, coming to stand beside Olivia. Only when they're sleeping, she replied with a tired smile. You should have seen Ethan's tantrum at bath time. I wish I had. The words held no accusation now, just a quiet acknowledgement of what had been lost. I wish I'd been there for all of it. Olivia turned to face him, her expression serious. I've been thinking about what happens next. About us. So have I. Maxwell gestured toward the nursery's sitting area, where they could talk without disturbing the children. Once seated, he continued, the divorce papers were filed the day you came to my office. Legally, we're no longer married. Pain flashed across Olivia's face, but she nodded. I understand. After what I did, keeping the children from you. Let me finish, Maxwell interrupted gently. We're no longer married, but we are still a family. These children need both of us, Olivia. They need stability and security after everything they've been through. What are you suggesting? Maxwell took a deep breath. I'm suggesting we start over. Not as husband and wife, at least not yet. There's too much hurt, too much broken trust for that. But as partners in raising our children. As friends, perhaps, learning to trust each other again. Hope flickered in Olivia's eyes. You'd be willing to try? After everything. These past few days, watching you with them, seeing how fiercely you protected them even for me when you thought it necessary. Maxwell's voice softened. It's reminded me of why I fell in love with you in the first place. Your courage, your determination, your capacity for love. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. I never stopped loving you, Maxwell. Even when I let you believe the worst, even when I saw what it was doing to you. I loved you through all of it. I know. He reached out, taking her hand in his. And that's why I believe we can find our way back to each other. Not quickly, not easily, but someday. Where do we start? Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Here, now. With 3 sleeping miracles who need their parents to be whole, even if we're not together. Maxwell squeezed her hand gently. We build a new foundation, brick by brick, based on honesty this time. Complete honesty. Olivia nodded, wiping away tears. I'd like that. From one of the cribs came a soft whimper, then a more insistent cry. Lily was awake and making her needs known. Without discussion, they both rose and moved to her crib, working in natural synchronization as Maxwell lifted her while Olivia prepared a bottle. As they cared for their daughter together, something settled between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of a path that might lead there. A shared purpose, a common love for the 3 small lives that connected them irrevocably. 6 months later, the Donovan family gathered on the terrace of the Connecticut estate to celebrate the triplets' first birthday. The day was perfect, sunshine warming the gardens where 3 one-year-olds explored their world with wobbling steps and delighted squeals. Lily, fully recovered from her blood disorder, was the most cautious of the 3, carefully examining each new discovery before committing to interaction. Ethan was the daredevil, constantly testing limits and boundaries with fearless determination. And Mia remained the peacemaker, her sunny disposition drawing everyone into her orbit. Maxwell watched them from the terrace, his heart full beyond measure. The past 6 months had been a journey of healing for the children, adapting to a world beyond the confines of their hidden sanctuary. For Olivia, learning to live without the constant fear that had driven her decisions. And for Maxwell himself, rebuilding his capacity for trust and forgiveness. They had established a new normal. Maxwell had renovated the east wing of the estate into a separate apartment for Olivia, giving her independence while keeping the family close. They co-parented with increasing harmony, their shared love for the children bridging the gaps that still existed between them. Horizon Innovations had emerged from the scandal stronger than before, with Maxwell implementing sweeping changes to security protocols and corporate governance. The Chinese contract had been secured, and the company's reputation for integrity had been reinforced by Maxwell's transparent handling of Whitfield's betrayal. "Penny for your thoughts," Olivia said, joining him at the terrace railing. She looked beautiful in a simple summer dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, her expression more relaxed than he had seen it in years. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Maxwell replied. "A year ago today, I believed our children had died before they were born. I was drowning in grief, and you were carrying the weight of an impossible secret. And now look at them." Olivia smiled as Ethan triumphantly climbed onto a low garden bench, raising his arms in victory before promptly falling off the other side into the soft grass. Living their lives in the sunshine, safe and loved. "Thanks to you," Maxwell acknowledged. "You made an impossible choice to protect them. I understand that now, even if I wish you had trusted me with the truth. I've learned that secrets, even well-intentioned ones, cause more harm than good." Olivia's expression grew serious. "Which is why I need to tell you something." Maxwell turned to face her fully, concern flickering across his features. "What is it?" I'm moving out of the East Wing, she said simply. I found a house in the village, close enough to maintain our co-parenting arrangement, but she hesitated. I think we both need space to decide what we truly want going forward. Though he had known this day would come eventually, Maxwell felt an unexpected pang at her words. Over the past 6 months, he had grown accustomed to having her near, to their family dinners and shared moments with the children. The thought of her leaving, even to a location just minutes away, created a hollow feeling in his chest. I see, he said carefully. If that's what you need. It's not about what I need, Olivia replied softly. It's about what we both need to move forward honestly. Living here in this limbo between marriage and separation, it's comfortable but it's not real. We're avoiding the hard questions about our future. Maxwell knew she was right. They had established a peaceful coexistence, focused entirely on the children, carefully sidestepping the deeper issues between them. When will you go? Next week. The house is ready. She touched his arm gently. This isn't an ending, Maxwell. It's just a necessary step. For both of us. Before he could respond, a chorus of delighted squeals drew their attention back to the garden. Mrs. Winters had appeared with the birthday cake, a confection decorated with stars and moons, matching the nursery theme that had waited so long for its intended occupants. We should join the celebration, Olivia said, moving toward the steps leading down to the garden. Maxwell caught her hand, stopping her. Olivia, wait. When she turned back to him, question in her eyes, he continued, have dinner with me tomorrow night, just the two of us, away from the estate. Surprise flickered across her face. Like a date. Exactly like a date. Maxwell smiled slightly. If we're going to start fresh, truly start fresh, then perhaps we should begin at the beginning. Two people getting to know each other again, without the weight of the past dictating our future. Hope bloomed in Olivia's expression. I'd like that. As they joined the birthday celebration, helping 3 one-year-olds make a glorious mess of their cake, Maxwell felt something he hadn't experienced in a very long time. Not just happiness, which had returned with his children, but possibility. The future stretching before them was unwritten, undefined. A blank page waiting for a new story to unfold. Whatever came next, they would face it with the wisdom earned through their ordeal. The knowledge that love, while powerful, required truth to flourish. That family bonds, once forged, could withstand even the most devastating betrayals. And that sometimes the most difficult choices led to the most profound healing. As the sun began to set on their children's first birthday, casting golden light across the estate gardens, Maxwell watched Olivia laughing as she wiped frosting from Mia's cheeks. In that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that their story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. If you've ever had to rebuild something precious that was broken, hit that like button. And if you believe that even the deepest wounds can heal with time, truth, and forgiveness, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that remind us of the resilience of the human heart. Life rarely gives us perfect endings or unblemished beginnings. Instead, it offers us the chance to write new chapters, to learn from our mistakes, and to choose love even when it seems impossible. Olivia and Maxwell's journey reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful families are built not from perfect circumstances, but from the rubble of shattered dreams and the courage to try again. Thank you for joining me for this story of deception, danger, and the enduring power of family bonds. I'm Mr. Harrison, and I'll see you in the next tale of timeless love.